Hello to everyone. The topic of my presentation is Remote Lab, a new assessment tool in the field of interpreting and education in the 21st century. So the component parts of this paper are the introduction with its background and significance, the assessment criteria in the field of interpreting, the definition of terminology, the predictability of the survey, the literature review, the methodology and study, where we will focus mainly in this presentation, as well as limitations and implications of the study and the conclusions. So first of all, I would like to start it with a question like, why do teachers assess? We all know that every teacher comes up at the beginning of the year with a certain plan, with some objectives, and with a certain curricula. But is it enough? I wouldn't say that it is enough, because there is always space for improvement, and just starting from the point that students are not the same, they do not have the same character, they behave differently, they are different because some of them may be audiovisual, some of them may be kinesthetic, so they learn in different manners. Therefore, teachers must adapt their teaching techniques to different kinds of students. Therefore, assessment is of great importance because it is needed for learning, it is needed for effective teaching, and it is needed for a quality learning environment. And here I would also like to stress the significance of two kinds of assessment, the formative and the summative one. So the formative assessment provides feedback to improve teaching and learning, and it occurs gradually throughout the academic year, whereas the summative one measures what the students have learned at the end of a learning activity. Each of them has its own significance and importance, and we will see it later on. So teachers should improve their assessment techniques, because this will help them to clarify their teaching goals and what the teacher wants students to learn. And this also leads with what I mentioned previously, that different students behave differently, thus every teacher should adapt his or her techniques to the variety of students he or she will deal with. So the improvement of the assessment techniques will allow the student to have a better understanding of the teacher's anticipation. It will create bridges of communication between the two. Students become more active and they are completely engaged in the learning process, and the teacher has the possibility to modify and arrange the course progress. We expect the remote lab to be a valid assessment instrument in translation and interpretation studies, and its primary scope is that students should improve themselves in three main levels: the linguistic, the communicative, and the public speaking level. So we believe that this remote lab will help them acquire such competencies throughout the learning process, and we also expect that this remote laboratory becomes a valid measurement instrument for nationwide services and organizations in need of good quality interpreters. Some of the advantages the remote laboratory has is that besides grading students, it promotes their ideas and creativities. It helps them in the process, in the acquisition process of interpreters' competencies. It enhances their learning throughout the course. It engages them fully in the process, as well as engages them in long-term projects, and it improves their critical and scientific thinking through research work. So the predictability of this survey is that the remote lab may function as a grading tool. It also may function as a promoter of ideas. It may function as a motivator, and it may help the students in the process of interpreter competence acquisition. The methodology used in this study is an observational research based on the database of the remote laboratory. The source input, which we named data pool, was created during the last semester, but it is an ongoing process because this term is not finished yet, so there are still many videos that will be recorded and will be submitted, as well as home assignments or research proposals and research papers. So there is still work to be done and to be submitted in this lab. The subject of study are 18 students in the Master of Science in Translation and Interpretation Studies in Ismail Kemal University of Lara. Students are asked to submit their weekly assignments, either written or video recorded, as well as they are tested for their midterms and final exams in remote distance with the help of this instrument. So this laboratory consists of more than 500 videos, which are in Albanian, English, and Italian language, as well as it consists of some research proposal video presentations, as well as research paper video presentations, which are to be added very soon in this laboratory. The main components of the study, I have designed a questionnaire with 10 questions. So I have designed and distributed to the subject via SurveyMonkey this questionnaire. It consisted of 8 closed-ended questions and 2 comment boxes where students were asked to write their own personal comments as far as the remote laboratory and the subjects related to this laboratory were concerned. One other component of this study are the results that we were provided from our course instructor, Professor Peço, in the subjects of translation and interpretation, as well as in the subject of research methods. So these results were analyzed, and then they are being represented in the chart so that you may see the differences or whether there is an increase or not in their learning process. As you may see, these are I have listed the 8 closed-ended questions of the SurveyMonkey questionnaire, and I have also presented the chart so that you may see how much satisfied or dissatisfied students were with their instructor or their the remote laboratory. So to the question, how concerned was your instructor with how well students were learning, they responded quite positively. 69.23% were extremely concerned, whereas 30.77% were quite concerned, and we had no negative responses. The second question, whether they were satisfied with their instructor's teaching or not, they also responded in a positive manner, with 69.23% extremely satisfied and 30.77% quite satisfied. To the third question, how much did success in the course depend upon understanding ideas rather than memorizing facts? We had again positive answers. 54% responded a great deal, whereas 46% a lot. To the fourth question, did your instructor give you too many assignments, too few assignments, or about the right amount? You may see that they have responded 69.23% about the right amount, so they were quite satisfied with the amount of assignments they were given by their instructor. To the fifth question, how well did the section or lab fit in with the other parts of the course? 53.85% responded very well, 38.46% extremely well, whereas 7.69% moderately well. Again, we have no negative responses here, but they are positive ones. To the sixth question, how much did the assigned reading help you to understand key concepts? We have again positive answers, 53.85% a lot of help, 38.46% a great deal of help, whereas 7.69% a moderate amount of help. To the question number 7, How much did your instructor stress the importance of understanding ideas rather than memorizing facts? 76.92 responded that a great deal. To the 8th question, whether they were satisfied with the course content or not. So they also responded positively. They were either extremely satisfied or moderately satisfied, and just a few of them were slightly and neither satisfied nor dissatisfied with the course content. So the questionnaire feedback significance was that firstly, we had students' feedback from this course and the interaction they had with the remote laboratory, and as we saw, this was positive. Students found the method of working from home and submitting their home assignments online. They found it very relaxing and helpful, thus reducing their psychological barriers. One of the aims of this questionnaire was to acquire feedback information about the teaching process and the involvement of their course instructor in this process. And as we saw again, it was positive, and it also helped to reduce the psychological barriers of the students, thus leading to higher and better performances. Here we have some charts which show clearly the differences between the first and the second midterm. As you may see, there is an increase in their progress. So different subjects we have placed in front of each other two different results of the first and second term averages, and again you may see that there is an increase in their progress. And this is the last subject, which is the research method, and you may see that 15.4 is the first midterm and 16.5 is the second midterm. So there is again an increase in their progress. So the conclusions of this study are the following. The SurveyMonkey questionnaire revealed that remote laboratory had a strong and positive impact on the subject, thus increasing their level of progress in the learning process. It approved the hypothesis that teachers can use this assessment tool not only to help their students but concurrently to improve their curricula and their teaching process. And the formative method of assessment gives the students the possibility to improve themselves, thus leading to better and satisfactory achievements. Whereas the conclusions from the analyzed data revealed that there was an increase in the students' progress. Students were monitored progressively. Both teachers and students used information with the purpose of improving the learning process, developing interpreters' linguistic and performance skills. So this remote laboratory helps them a lot to acquire and to develop the linguistic competencies that an interpreter needs. It becomes a positive stimulus in the teaching learning process, thus creating a linking bridge between the two and making the lecture or the learning process, making it easier and not a stressful process. And lastly, the remote laboratory contributes to the community of students that have an interest in translation and interpretation studies, since its data pool is web accessible and there are more than 500 videos, as I previously mentioned. Of course, there are some limitations and implications of the study. So it is a study that is performed in a small sample population, thus we need bigger groups of study to perform a similar study in different places with different subjects, thus giving to this study wider demographic characteristics. And the implications, of course, are mainly in the field of education and in that of translation and interpretation studies. And we believe that it will enhance the students' learning process, it will promote their ideas, and it will create linking bridges between students and professors. So thank you very much for your attention. This was my presentation. And these are the references that I used in this paper.